समोस्यांचे त्रिकोण, पेढ्यांची वर्तुळे, केशरी जिलब्या, गुलाबजाम काळे, लेटस सेलरीला कोण घालतो भी, दणकून खाणे असे माझे ब्रीद. मटणाच्या तिखटाचा मोडायला काटा, त्यावर खावा मग तळलेला बटाटा, मग येते बिर्याणीची वेगळीच केक, दणकून खाणे असे माझे ब्रीद. पुरणपोळीवर घ्यावी तुपाची धार, स्कॉच पिताना आठवेना कोणता हा वार, ब्लॅक कॉफी स्प्लेंडाला कोण घालतो भी, दणकून खाणे असे माझे ब्रीद. जेव्हा पॅन होई टाईट मला फार वाटते वाईट, नथिंग सीम्स टू गो राईट, तेव्हा दुःख विसरायला खातो मी फ्रेंच फ्राईज, खातो मी फ्रेंच फ्राईज.
Hello and Namaste. Welcome to this webinar on heart health, being presented by South Asian Heart Center based in El Camino, California, and being sponsored by Akshaybhasha organization based in Phoenix, Arizona. It is such a beautiful November afternoon today. Hope you are enjoying the weather. We are deep into the holiday season now. Our calendars are getting filled with party invitations. This is exactly the right time to listen to the experts about diet and lifestyle before food and fun take over our health. We are blessed to have well-trained and experienced speakers from El Camino Health's South Asian Heart Center. Let me introduce them. Mr. Ashish Mathur, who has a B.Tech in Electrical Engineering from IIT Bombay and Masters in Computer Science from University of Southern California, is the co-founder and executive director of El Camino Health's South Asian Heart Center since its inception in September of 2006. He has created the center's vision and its mission to reduce the high incidence of diabetes and heart attacks in South Asian communities with culturally tailored, science-based, and lifestyle-focused services. Developed under his guidance, the center has become a unique resource for community members to evaluate and reduce the risk for coronary artery disease. Mrs. Anita Sathe, who holds a master's degree in the most difficult subject, I think, which is the statistics. But I must say she falls out of the bell curve because she's a certified coach in group life balance diabetes prevention program. Hats off to her. She works as a full-time volunteer with South Asian Heart Center since 2006. She is the founding member of the case management team. She has developed center's coaching policies and procedures. She has designed center's electronic participant tracking system because she also has training in computer sciences. She has created Heart Health Coach Training Program. She has coached more than 1,200 program participants since 2006. She has received Santa Clara County Asian American Hero Award. Welcome both to this webinar, and as you listen to this resume, both resumes are very impressive. I'm all ears as to what they will be teaching us today. I have my own very clear ideas about diet and foods, and let me share them with you. Everybody seems to be fascinated by the paleo diet these days. My idea about paleo diet is this, that we can throw the donuts and chocolates in the woods and hunt for them, gather them, and then eat them. That will be our paleo diet, wouldn't it? Enough of spilling the pearls of my wisdom here. I will let the experts talk. I will hand over the mic to the speakers from the South Asian Heart Center now. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Bhageshwari, for having us. I know that this event was long in the planning and now is finally materialized. We are delighted to speak to your audience today and answer questions. And our sincere hope is that, as the community has had, a recent, tragedy, that what we talk about today, it becomes relevant for everybody, and that we are able to become a resource for the community, there. So, and thank you for the introduction. I must say that, you um, talked about the work that you've been doing with Anita, and we are really proud to have her on board. And I am going to co-present with her so she can today offer some tips that everybody can take home and start to make happen. So our hope, sincere hope, was that today's session will give you some tidbits, some things, very practical things that you can incorporate at home, so that this whole thing doesn't have to be as bad as it is for the community. So our topic today is halt heart attacks and stop diabetes. And we'd like to introduce El Camino Health South Asian Heart Center, which provides culturally tailored, lifestyle-focused, and evidence-based risk reduction technology to the community and to physicians. So 4 things that we're going to talk about today. One is, why is there an epidemic of heart disease and diabetes? This is the epidemic that causes these fatal heart attacks or cardiac arrests. What do we know about preventing these adverse events? How does one go about reducing risk? And how much does it cost for you to stay on top of your health? So we'll tackle why first. So how many of you can relate, a young person in the mid-40s exercising on a treadmill has a heart attack? I guess, the incidents that we are talking about was somebody who just played golf coming back. No symptoms, healthy physical activity routine, no red meat in the diet, and yet there is a fatal heart attack. So the first reason is that we are South Asian. Now, I remember a conversation that Bhagyashree had with Anita in terms of people not relating to the term South Asian, and I'm okay with that. We are talking about the people of the Indian subcontinent. This is a term that has been coined for an economic reason rather than a health reason. But it so happens that the same individuals that are part of that same area have a much higher incidence of both coronary artery disease and of diabetes. So if you look at the Indian subcontinent and the countries surrounding it, there is 2 times the risk for coronary artery disease and 4 times the risk for diabetes. And what it translates to is essentially 60% of the world's heart disease burden and 50% of the world's diabetes burden. So that is really, really big and disproportionate. The next reason is that individuals are getting sicker younger. 25% of heart attacks, MIs, are myocardial infarctions or heart attacks before the age of 40, 50% heart attacks before the age of 55. In this country, the average age for the first heart attack is 65 years for men and 70 for women. So you can see that it's kind of translated happening earlier in this population, and twice the rate of mortality. So just being, Indian, you are twice as much likely to succumb to a fatal heart attack compared to the other population. And here I'll stop because I don't know all of the reasons for why this occurs and why we are more susceptible to a fatal heart attack. This I can tell you, and perhaps a takeaway for everybody, is to, number one, not delay when you do have any symptoms of chest pain, chest pressure, and the typical symptoms of a heart attack, but call 911 to get to the emergency room. Because as we know, we are more susceptible to this particular issue. And minutes and seconds matter. And if we are late getting there, then it can be the difference between life and death. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what is a heart attack. So here is the heart, and you can see that there's a little dark patch at the bottom, and there are some arteries that are surrounding the heart. Coronary artery disease, the one that causes this heart attack, which causes a scarring on the heart, pertain to arteries surrounding the heart, not the arteries that are going into the heart. These are responsible for other things, but these are the ones that actually narrow and may cause a heart attack. So let's just look at this quick video on a heart attack.
For your heart to function properly, it needs good blood supply. The coronary arteries are small tubes that supply blood to the heart. Over time, and with certain risk factors, plaque can build up in the walls of the artery. This is called coronary heart disease. Plaque is made of fat, cholesterol, and other materials. As more plaque accumulates in the artery walls, narrowing can occur, which reduces the amount of blood flow to your heart muscle. Sometimes your heart needs to work harder than usual, such as during physical exertion, emotional stress, or after a heavy meal. During these times, your heart needs more oxygen-rich blood than the narrowed arteries can deliver. When there is a lack of oxygen to your heart muscle, you may experience angina. Angina is a feeling of pain or discomfort that may feel like heaviness, pressure, tightness, or squeezing in your chest. Angina is short-lasting and goes away when the demand on the heart is reduced by resting or angina medications. Coronary heart disease can also lead to a heart attack. A heart attack occurs when the artery wall tears or ruptures and the bloodstream makes contact with the fatty plaque that was inside the artery wall. This can cause a clot to form, which may block the flow of blood to the heart. A blocked artery can damage the heart muscle, and urgent treatment is required to restore the flow of blood to the heart. A heart attack is a medical emergency. Unlike angina, the signs of a heart attack will not go away with rest or angina medications. In a heart attack, urgent treatment is required to clear the blocked artery and save the heart muscle from permanent damage. If you think you are having a heart attack, call 000.
Well, this was a video that was produced in Australia, and I looked at a whole bunch of them, and I like this particular one. So the only thing that needs to change is, instead of the 000, is the 911. So I hope you kind of get a sense of a heart attack, and you may have already known this, but when I speak to audiences, somehow this is not as clear. The third reason is that the traditional guidelines underestimate the risk and do not predict risk in us as well as in other populations. And they miss out on things that should have been looked at. So what are these other factors that we should be looking at? So these are dysmetabolism. Dysmetabolism means, markers such as hemoglobin A1C, blood sugar levels, insulin, etc. Inflammation is actually one of the underlying causes of that plaque rupture that you saw on the video. And so the whole game plan is to kind of reduce inflammation from all the sources that we can see, but we don't measure inflammation or know that there is an underlying condition that we need to address. And so one of the things that I ask people to look at is, what is it that you are doing that raises inflammation within the body? And one of the key things that you are doing constantly, almost every single day, is eating. And eating causes a whole lot of inflammation. So it's important to kind of look at foods that reduce inflammation rather than add to the inflammation. The next is a set of genetic markers that you need to look at to see. One of those things could be the family history, but other things are easily measured in the blood laboratory testing as well. So that is something that we need to add to the risk prediction. And then finally, cholesterol is a good marker. It's been there for ages, and it's part of the traditional guidelines. Therefore, you get a cholesterol test done at every annual physical. But there is more things to look at with cholesterol that are not measured by the normal blood test. And so we have been kind of looking at and researching on the need to kind of look at cholesterol concentration as tool to predict risk. And then finally, number 4, how do we nurture ourselves? And this is something that is a fundamental issue with why we end up with heart disease is how we nurture ourselves. So if you look at it, this is everything to do with lifestyle. And today's topic will really be focused around this. How do we deal with stress? Stress has been shown to increase risk for coronary events by 32%, a third of the reason for having heart attacks. This was shown in the InterHeart study, which studied 15,000 individuals with heart attacks across the globe and compared them to 15,000 individuals who didn't. And they had age matched, gender matched, social strata matched these individuals. And they found that psychosocial stress accounted for 32%, 32+% of the risk, population attributable risk for having a heart attack. The next one is, how do we nourish ourselves? Are we being active or adequately active? You know, people sometimes say that they are active. A majority of individuals who come to the South Asian Heart Center for working with us will be very inactive during the day. And our hope, and working with Anita's team, is to make them active over the period of a year. And then, do we get adequate rest? This is a question that's actually not even discussed at annual physicals very often. But the underpinnings of inflammation are dependent on how well we rest. All right, so what do we know about preventing adverse events? How can we make that happen? That all of the science that we know today indicate that medication can reduce the events by 30%, maximum 40%. But lifestyle is able to do much more. So we know that this issue is preventable. If you look at heart attacks, 79% of heart attacks can be prevented through lifestyle. And 93% of diabetes may be prevented with lifestyle. So here are some of the studies that have been done on lifestyle. There is the Potsdam study, which is a German study, a Swedish study, and the M.E.D.S study. These are 3 marquee lifestyle studies with a large number of individuals involved in the study that show the relevance of lifestyle in preventing heart attacks. All of them, without doubt, talk about not smoking. And as high as 27% of heart attacks can be reduced by not smoking. So if you don't smoke, don't start. If you do smoke, this would be a number 1 consideration. All 3 studies kind of show the relevance. All of the 3 studies show the relevance of having physical activity in your lives. And the net of this is 150 minutes of exercise or moderate physical activity over a week's period. Not doing it all on one day like the weekend warrior, but spreading it out on multiple days of the week. And the best is to exercise or be physically active every day. The third thing that all of them talk about is maintaining your BMI. Do you know what the current standard for BMI for this population is? For individuals of the Indian subcontinent? Or what the BMI normal is for the rest of the population? And also, what is BMI? So body mass index is a tool to understand how your mass of the body is distributed over your height and weight. So that's kind of a measure. And the normal is 25 or less. Between 25 to 30 in this country is in the fat zone, and over 30 is obese. For South Asians and Asians in particular, that number, the normal, is 23. And there's a study, ongoing study at UCSF here in the Bay Area called the Masala study that's going on. they have shown that at BMIs greater than 19, that we start seeing metabolic disorders in this population. So really, it's a very stringent requirement for South Asians. So, and actually BMI is also reflective. If you start seeing your weight starting to go up, it is a forebearer of a metabolic disorder, or what we call dysmetabolism. And that means that your metabolism is not in balance. Okay, so weight starts first, then you might see your cholesterol kind of going up, and then you might see your blood sugars kind of going up in your bloodstream as well, because of that imbalance in the metabolism. All three studies talk about having a BMI, in this case, just not being obese. In this case, they measures the waist, and in the M.E.D.S study, they measured the weight. All of the studies also talked about food and what should be incorporated. And the common thing was the high intake of vegetables and fruit in the diet, and also whole grains and low meat intake, right? So this, the Potsdam or the German study really pointed towards more of a whole food, plant-based diet, although it allowed for things like fish and lean meats. The top quintile of recommended food score was 5 things that you needed to look at within your diet, which again emphasized heavily on the consumption of vegetables, fruits, not having fried foods, etc. And in the M.E.D.S study, they talked about having breakfast daily and eating regularly and not snacking. The Swedish study and the M.E.D.S study talked about none to moderate alcohol. And the M.E.D.S study also talked about sleeping 7 to 8 hours. So we have actually synthesized all of these studies together in our program to be able to offer the kind of risk reduction that is needed for our population. In the case of the Potsdam study, they showed a 36 to 93% reduction in chronic disease. The 93% was for diabetes, 81% for heart disease or heart attacks, and then 36% was for cancers and 50% for stroke. The Swedish studies showed a 79% lower incidence of heart attacks. And the M.E.D.S 7 talked about longevity, 11 plus years of longevity and successful aging. So you can see how powerful making change in lifestyle can be to risk reduction. And then I wanted to mention that what we also know is that intent plays a big role in terms of getting to the kind of wellness that we are looking for. It comes with changing or shifting our attitudes to health. In the past, the definitions of health were focused around absence of disease. Not having disease means you were healthy. Version 2.0 of health was actually not that. It went a step further by prevention of disease. And this is how we started at the South Asian Heart Center, focusing on prevention of diseases, mitigating risk factors of disease. So not just not being sick, but actually being a little proactive about your health. But version 3 of health, that has been with the World Health Organization since 1957, is life in complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So they're looking at kind of the whole spectrum of well-being as being healthy, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, or even just preventing disease. Most people, if they were to kind of look at version 2.0 and start with that, they can easily graduate towards the version 3. And our hope is that, that all of you actually focus on how well you feel overall and all the time, not just how good you feel when you have, your most favorite foods, or how good you feel momentarily, although that is important as well. But we want to kind of look at how good you feel across the board, because that's what's going to propel you to do more towards your health. So then how do we do it? So I want to kind of talk about the journey of the South Asian Heart Center, because we focused on creating a program for our community to first get measured, understand the risk factors, understand the science behind lifestyle as a mechanism to change our risk and therefore adverse events in the future. And that is what I'm going to kind of describe to you. So the South Asian Heart Center was started in 2006. It's a nonprofit organization. It's associated with El Camino Health, which is a community-based hospital in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's South Bay, south of San Francisco. But we have kind of created our program that's available to everybody across the United States and across other countries as well. And the whole idea was to reduce the high incidence of diabetes and heart attacks with culturally tailored, science-based and lifestyle-focused services. We have a very luminous scientific committee, and some names that you may have heard, especially Dr. Kanaya, who is the principal investigator of the Masala study, and she is one of our scientific committee members. But we have people from Stanford and from Sutter Health associated with us as well. We have a small team of individuals who are on us as staff. Anita actually is a full-time staff member, but she is 100% volunteering with the South Asian Heart Center. And then we've got a team of volunteers behind this who are heart health coaches, and of course, helping us with many activities. So we've created this risk reduction technology called M.E.D.S, which is a curated science, but it's simplified because we've found that individuals don't normally run to kind of, PubMed to look at research papers on lifestyle. They'll read up what Google is saying about lifestyle, and very often, and there are many people out there with different opinions about it. And so we've kind of looked at science to guide us along the path, this, very difficult path to figure out what works for us and what is the right lifestyle and how much should I do of this, and should I have this or not have this, and what is the significance of sleeping more or meditating, etc., and how does it relate to outcomes. So we've kind of taken that science and netted it out, and we call it M.E.D.S, so it's easy to remember. It's just not the meds that you're used to, that you go to the pharmacy for. You come to the South Asian Heart Center's lifestyle pharmacy to get these dispensed. Now, you could do this on your own, and some people do, but we find that a majority of people who understand all of the concepts still are not able to actually implement this effectively because there are many considerations to this. And we have kind of, and Anita's heart health coaching program is kind of, looked at all of the different dimensions of the challenges that people face in implementing meds in their lifestyle or life. So the main programs that we have built for individuals that are structured programs for a length of time are all based on this fundamental platform. Today, I'm just going to talk about Aim to Prevent, which is a program that we've created for everybody, divided up into kind of 3 steps: assess, intervene, and manage. So it's called Aim to Prevent. In the assess phase, we go beyond the traditional guidelines. We go beyond all of the tests that are done at the annual physical. And so what is done at the annual physical is just the tip of the iceberg. So we go beyond that by looking at all of the things that I talked about already: genetics, dyslipidemia, inflammation, diabetes, and dysmetabolism. And we look at the lifestyle behaviors in great depth, because we start seeing a pattern, but we also start seeing things that are possible to change. So that's why we pay such a lot of emphasis, and we cover that as part of our assessment. So that's assess. The second step is intervene, and here we offer some workshops, science-based workshop on each of our lifestyle modalities: meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. Meditation and sleep being the bookends of this platform, focus around rest, a component that actually just missed in all of the assessments that you get done through your physician. Some physicians are great and they might talk about it, but most physicians don't really query individuals on whether they are getting adequate sleep or meditation. We actually send a lot of people back to their physicians to evaluate sleep because we find disorders of sleep that are adding to the inflammation, adding to the weight gains, and so working on sleep becomes a major part of coaching paradigm at the South Asian Heart Center. So what I'm going to do now is to turn it over to Anita to talk about how we have curated science into meds and what we want to leave you with today so that you can start implementing it in your lives. Anita, please.
Sure. The first one is meditation. And as we saw, that the daily practice of restful alertness is what we call it. And the recommendation is 20 minutes twice a day. We feel it's the most important, and that's why M has a first place in our whole lifestyle program. If you think you cannot do 20 minutes twice a day, once you experience how you feel and the value of that meditation, you will not be able to not find time to do it. Practitioner notice benefits right away. It can have positive impact on all other aspects for creating that healthy lifestyle that you are deserve. The next, we will talk about exercise. Again, the mantra is first regular, then varied and vigorous. So in general, 150 minutes in a week, but as Ashish mentioned earlier, it's not just the weekend warriors like hiking on the weekend and getting those 150 minutes, but it's mostly distributed over, minimum 30 minutes, 5 times a week is what is a recommendation. But just doing cardio exercise is not enough. Research shows that strength training is equally important, specifically when you are talking about reducing the blood sugar numbers, the A1C or the fasting blood glucose or the post meal. So the strength training recommendation is 2 times a week. Along with the strength training, what really helps in managing the blood sugar numbers is post meal walks. By walking post meal, you can curb that glucose rise in the blood. 15 minutes post meal walks after breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whichever meals you can. The more you do it, the more beneficial it will be. And lastly, American Diabetes Association has come up with earlier their guideline was limit sedentary time to 1 hour, but in last 2 years, they have reduced it to 30 minutes. What it means is more moving or using stand up desk, or sometimes getting up while you are working every 30 minutes is what is recommended. Next, we'll talk about diet. Okay, here the mantra is more greens than grains. Now, how do we do this? More greens than grains. So the other thing that we have come up with is the goals are 0, 1, 2, 12. It's very easy to remember. 0 sugary drinks. Here in the sugary drinks, we are talking about any added sugar or sugar substitute, whether it's Splenda or it's agave, honey, jaggery, any sugar, stevia. So 0 added sugar in the tea or coffee, or drinking soda or diet soda. Then 1 fistful of fruit a day. So when we talk about fistful, you can see your fist, see your hand, and if you close your fist, look at your fist wrist upwards, and that's 1 fistful. So minimum that much fruit, and then 2 fistful of vegetables at the bare minimum, and the 12 nuts a day. So it's a very easy to remember, 0, 1, 2, 12. And then we talk about plate method. The reason we have stress on the plate method is often, there are a lot of things that we know, but then we don't know how to do it is very important. Instead of counting calories, it's a most easiest way to eat healthy food in the right proportion and portion. So we start with a 9-inch plate, and then half of the plate is vegetables, 1/4 of the plate is grain, and 1/4 of the plate is protein. So you may have noticed there is no instruction on what to do on this plate. So this plate You can put any grain portion, any food that you are eating, whether it's lunch, dinner, whether it's Indian or non-Indian, it can be plated in that way. And if you eat this way, you will always be eating more vegetables than grain. So then one doesn't have to count a lot. And here we are trying to focus on, what to eat rather than what not to eat. So as long as you have fill up your plate with half a plate vegetables. And again, I can give you a quick tip on how to measure the vegetable intake also. So same way like we use fist, this one fist size of cooked vegetables is, 2 servings, and one fist size of salad is 1 serving. So if you are eating a one roti, so today what you can do at the dinner time is, first of all, find out in your house if you can find a 9-inch plate. If you have less than a 9-inch plate, that's great. If not, then you may want to consider buying a 9-inch plate. And then you can try to portion, put your food and arrange your food in this plate method way. So if I'm eating a roti, then one 6-inch roti with a 1 cup of cooked vegetable and 2/3 cup of dal will be like a plate, eating by plate method. Once I finish that, then I can replenish the plate in the similar manner. That way I'm always eating more vegetables than grain. I also wanted to share with you few examples. So lot of the people attending this today's webinar are Maharashtrians. I can see some of the last names. And this is the sweet potato dish that we make when we fast, that you see on the right hand side. And with that, so as you can see, that sweet potato or peas are not considered vegetables, but they are considered in the grain section. They fit into the grain section. So if I want to eat that, then I would put that in the 1/4 section of the grain. And then on the top in the katori, you see the Greek yogurt or cottage cheese mixed with some vegetables and nuts. And on the side, there is a stir-fried vegetable. So even when I'm eating by a plate method, the sweet potato goes in the grain section. So this is, sample plate for eating Italian food. You see a ravioli there on the left-hand side as a grain, sorted spinach, 1 cup of sorted spinach as a vegetable, and there is some bean soup there, beans and vegetable soup, like a minestrone soup. So my point is, any food that we are eating can be eaten by the plate method, but one just has to take, little bit efforts to arrange it this way. Lastly, I would like to talk about sleep. And here our goal is about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. In last 16 years, when we talk to participants day after day, our community is sleep deprived because of globalization. So people don't put enough attention to sleep. And if we sleep well and if we meditate, everything else really falls into the place. As a part of managed part of this program, after people have done their blood test with the physician, they have talked to the health educator and attended webinars, there is a 1 year of coaching that we offer, where it's an opt-in program, and we have appointments with our participants once a month. And during that appointments, we use baby step approach. Often if suddenly, somebody asks me to eat by plate method and I'm not eating that way, or somebody asks me to, do the 30-minute, 5 days a week exercise, do the strength training, walk post meals, it becomes too overwhelming for people to follow through with that. And often that's what happens with most of us. Even when I had my first time I had my blood sugar long time back, reaching 100 fasting blood glucose, I had a note from a physician saying that watch what you eat less carbohydrates and exercise more, but then there is no follow-up. So during coaching, we work with people individually to see what changes out of all the recommendation, what changes they would like to follow, and then we work with them in a baby step manner to build up upon the changes that they want to make. So it's a 1 year program, 12 appointments in a year. And then at the end of the year, after first 1 year of coaching, then we re-engage with each and every of our participants every year, once a year, as long as they keep appointments with us. So people sometimes engage with us in the beginning, then they go away, they try their best to do the lifestyle changes, retain the lifestyle changes that they have made. And sometimes in future, when they find out, oh, something is slipping and I need help again, they sometimes even come back and join the program again to work with a coach. And during coaching, we basically celebrate the successes that participants have. If there are any barriers in following any recommendation, then together we come up with the alternatives that they can use. And at the end of the coach, when they have success, we ring the bell from them.
All right, so just in summarizing, we have a bunch of assessments in the assessment phase: the heart health risk assessment, the laboratory testing, biometrics, a CT scan for your heart, which is optional, and then going over your results, which is a consolidated report from all of these assessments, and kind of giving you a clearer picture for how, what is the risk that you may have, or what are the factors that raise your risk profile. In the intervention phase, as we mentioned, you are going through workshops on these 4 pillars of our lifestyle platform. And then finally, you have coaching over the period of 1 year. And you are free to kind of continue your coaching if you feel you need more time to establish everything. You've built a rapport with the coach, and so you can continue with that coach, on a monthly basis beyond the first year. But you know that at the end of every single year, like Anita was saying, we will give you a call to kind of reassess where you're at, and that's all part of our program, and including in the lifetime membership fee that you pay at the beginning of the program. So we've had a lot of success with our participants. We have seen that they are eating more vegetables and fruit. We are seeing that they are exercising more. We are seeing that the cholesterols are improving. The risk cholesterol ratio, which is one of the risk markers, is improving as well. And we are getting, 3 out of 4 individuals kind of getting to that point. And we are also seeing a lower incidence of new events, in this population, a 98.7% event-free survival over a 6-year period at the last study that we did for over 4,365 participants and over 2,000 participants who were retested with us. We've had the great fortune to be recognized as an organization by Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is the Surgeon General of the United States. He was during the Obama time period as well. And he actually has visited the South Asian Heart Center to understand what the program is and how we impact the health of the community. Also, the American Heart Association has recognized the work of the South Asian Heart Center as a community strategy for addressing this incidence of heart disease and diabetes within the community. And the CDC has given the South Asian Heart Center's Stop D program, which is focused around diabetes and diabetes prevention, the full plus recognition as well. It's a 5-year recognition given on the basis of engaging individuals, but also helping them reduce weight and lowering the blood sugars, as well as helping them exercise more.
So I am one of those examples, probably. Like, I was a weekend warrior. I hike locally, and the first time I tried to hike Squaw Peak, I couldn't even make it to the top. I was in such a bad shape. So I joined. I happened to know somebody who used to volunteer at this place. So they recommended, and my numbers and my medications were going up. And I thought I took the decision to change that. And then I started the program, like Anita said, about 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, some of my numbers have come down. My medications have dropped. And I definitely, I'm much more healthier now than I was about 5-6 years ago. This program gives they're able to explain it to you simply and gives you a good structure, easy to follow method to eat the things that we normally eat without making too much of a change to our dietary habits. And that does help me keep my cholesterol numbers low, keep my fitness high. Uh, that is one of the reasons, I can definitely recommend this program to everyone. There are two or three things that helped me in the program. One was, they've taken the best of all the research and they give you the structured and easy and proven method to improve your health. Number two is the personalized coaching. So what worked for me may not work for somebody else. And the coaches sort of understand that and they sort of fit. For example, even in my example, like what time I work out, my coach would, based on what's happening in my life at the time, would tell me, why don't you try this? Why don't you try working out at this time instead of this time? It's easy to say start meditation, but it's hard to make it a habit. Then they try to help you with, how to make it a habit. And once you make it a habit, then it, sort of sticks with you. The third thing that they sort of help, which I didn't appreciate earlier, was that now that with WhatsApp and the community, we sort of, there is a group of people who've gone through this, and you go through a group in a class, and that sort of helps because you learn from others who are going through the same things. That's in a nutshell. My experience has been very fortunate. I've been with them for almost 4 or 5 years, off and on. I've seen when I've not been on following it, like when I go to India, for example, a month or so, and I've not taken the precautions, I can see how my numbers go down. And then I come back and I structure it again, and then my numbers are again back on track. And if there are any questions that you want to ask me as well, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Muthu, for your testimonial today. But I really feel that you took the first step, and that I think is really the key. For anyone, is to realize that there's an issue and to be able to kind of deal with it.